Metazoa Snapshot is a comprehensive org management solution to help maintain, manage, clean up, and optimize your Salesforce orgs. Visual workspaces with intuitive tools help to reduce complexity and simplify workflow. Just drag, drop, and connect. Optimize your org and lower the total cost of ownership by identifying which assets are used the least and cleaning up unused fields and metadata. Quickly restore metadata in disaster recovery situations by scheduling automated backups or taking snapshots on demand. Easily manage releases and migrate metadata and data between sandbox and production environments while automatically recording deployment history. Visualize profiles and permission sets with mass edit and user assignment capabilities. Compare differences in metadata between orgs and over time, and set notifications to trigger alerts when changes occur. Detailed reporting makes it easy to compare user profiles and manage permission sets across multiple orgs. Reduce complexity with comprehensive org management from Metazoa Snapshot for Salesforce.
We were just a bunch of nerdy kids who ignored the haters. We took their ridicule and we built on it. And when some of us gave up, well, we built on that too. Built resilience, built on a mission to make things a little better every day until the users came. Then the haters were VCs who scoffed at our audacity. This just isn't the way things are done. But we kept building. Users turned into teams, turned into companies, running their entire businesses on our apps. Then the software giants came after us. We weren't proven, we weren't fully featured, our radical cloud model wasn't secure. But we built on. And today, as companies adopt the cloud to move faster, teams are finding themselves slowed down by each other's efforts. The skeptics are claiming we'll never develop innovation at scale. But now, DevOps have come to the cloud, ushering in a new era of transformation. Companies can release on demand across hundreds of environments, innovating faster with fewer conflicts and fewer disruptions. There will always be challenges. There will always be naysayers. And we'll build on.
I'll just start off with just a real quick intro to have a little background on me, where I'm coming from and stuff, and from there. I will say too, if y'all have any questions after this, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. You see my LinkedIn profile there. I also have a blog. It's partial2pardot.com that I started a good 2 weeks ago, so not a ton of content, but you can contact me there at least, so you've got that to work off of. So any questions afterwards, I'm happy to talk about it. I will say today too, today we're started talking a little bit more about implementation and definitely strategy. So we're not going hands-on into Pardot or Marketing Cloud or Salesforce. So if you do have questions there, I'd be happy to discuss that with you. Also, very quick about me, been in digital marketing about 15 years, about half of it B2B, half of it B2C. And for about 7 years in there, I was the director of strategic marketing for a manufacturing company. And then for about the last 3 or so years, I've been working full-time as a marketing automation consultant. I work with a Salesforce partner with the headquarters in New York City named Plative. And we have offices in New York, Toronto, Vancouver, Mumbai, India, and also the Philippines. And we're just mostly Salesforce, but also a very strong NetSuite practice in there also. Matter of fact, our NetSuite group is one of the original groups that did an integration between NetSuite and Pardot. And so today we're going to just sort of talk through, really the whys. And here's where I'm sort of focusing as far as folks and where we're looking. Definitely for consultants and thinking through the whys of an implementation, but very much so for folks within an organization also, direct, maybe digital marketing managers, maybe you do the Salesforce admin, maybe you're in IT and you're a project manager and your role is implementing projects from there. And I'm definitely talking on the marketing side of the house, but the small piece of the big puzzle that we're going to discuss today probably could be transferred into Salesforce and even other products, or even just project management in general. And you see on the slide here that we've got sort of this why, how, what, and the smallest piece is the what, the actual implementation, the designing things, the making things happen. Um, but it's probably the biggest piece in time. As far as what makes the biggest impression in the end, though, I really believe, and that's where we're going today, that it's the why. It's the why are we doing this? Why are we putting our time into it, our energy, our resources, and our money? And what is our strategy? And how are we going to use the tools to make that happen? And you see here, we've got sort of three whys that I think about. And to me, this is sort of what defines um, traction when it comes to projects, because we've all got tons of things going on, folks in the organization, in IT, upper management, lots of projects to work on, lots of things to do. But the question is why do we want to do this now? So why are we going to put the money, the resources, the time into stepping up our game from a marketing perspective versus other things? Why this particular thing? Maybe you have tools in place. You're using a email system or something today. Maybe you're using Web Delete on Salesforce. And so why do we want to go through and implement a new product? And then also, of course, why do we care? What's the emotional piece? And, if we don't feel like we're really going to get something out of it, we're just doing it because it seems like the right thing to do, then oftentimes things fall by the wayside. I will say very quickly, just as a background, so to why I use this framework that I'm using. Um, Over time, implementing myself, Salesforce Pardot as a customer, also doing lots of implementations with clients. What I found is that everybody agrees that now is the time to step up the marketing automation game. To maybe if you already have Salesforce, integrating that marketing automation with Salesforce, or if you're starting from scratch, just doing it right the first time. Everybody I've come across agrees on that 100%. What we found though is when I start asking the questions about what are we going to do to leverage the tools, oftentimes we're starting in a place where we don't have a clear picture of that. And so that's where I've come to the realization that if we don't know why we're doing what we're doing and what we hope to get out of it, the implementation itself has a chance of failure. And even if it doesn't fail, it's going to sputter and take a lot more work than if we walk into it from day one of saying, here is our well-defined marketing strategy, not even digital, but just our well-defined marketing strategy. And here's how we're going to leverage these tools to get to our end goal. And you see here on the slide, so I've got this slide for two reasons. One is it really is the framework I like to use for a marketing strategy, which is where are you now? Where do you want to go? How do you get there? How do you ensure arrival? And today we're really going to talk mostly about really drilling down into the where are you now piece of it. The other reason I like this slide though is when I put the presentation together, I don't know if everybody knows, I haven't used it before. There's this cool little design ideas feature in PowerPoint. And what happens is you can go into a slide and just type in what I did, the name, and then 4 bullet points, and it like gives you different options for slides. And this is what it gave me for the slide. And I thought it was interesting because it put the icons in here too. And it gave me the where are you now? And it gave me a chicken. I don't know if they're like goading me and trying to say I'm chicken and I'm afraid to get started. I'm not sure what that was about, but I certainly have no idea why it gave me a taco for where do you want to go. But the next two were interesting in that it gave me a hamster on a wheel for how do we get there, which definitely, if you do enough implementations, you have that sense at times. And then one that actually worked out pretty well, which is how do we ensure arrival? And it's a pilot. And though we won't go over the other two pieces, they're part of a bigger puzzle. You can see on my eye chart here, which is hard to read. The very first thing is the where are we now, and but it shows you the other three pieces, and you can see in here too the how do we get there, which is number 3. It has the most bullet points and most steps in my mind map, so there really is the one that takes the most time and doing the most things. But the where are we now, I think, really is the part that sets us up for success. But you can see that it's a piece of a bigger process. And you'll want to work through each of those pieces, starting from the beginning. One of the things you can tell too is when we make a joke about the chicken is this is more than just implementing a tool. It really is about where people are at, what their thoughts are, and what they're willing to do to move forward to step up the game. And so I like to think about that. The why really goes deeper into the hard issue of why. And everybody starts at a different place. Do want to mention, I mentioned before the slides. If you go to partial-to-pardot.com/virtual dreamin, you can get these slides there. And then the rest of our time here, we're going to spend going through a tool that I use for the where are we now piece of it that we can work out. And you can get that PDF from there too. They're all on that page with a couple other things. But the real thing is to earnestly ask, and I guess this falls into any implementation, not just marketing, but where are we today on the journey as far as sort of the maturity on that scale? Are we just tweaking the machine? Like, we've got this thing lined out. We're sending out emails. We've got drip campaigns. I've worked with some folks that have an 18-month engagement studio program that they're running through, and I can't tell you how many steps that are on there, and they can't either. And when we try to tweak it, it's like a 2-week process to make sure we don't break things. And that's sort of that piece of, you've got everything going and it is humming along, and there's just a lot of stuff that's supporting the organization from a marketing perspective. The next step down is sort of that reactionary marketing. And I think a lot of folks are there. I'm going to take 2 seconds just to be brutally honest too, and say, I read articles all the time, and I see surveys coming out from organizations talking about digital marketing adoption from organizations. And what I see is these numbers, like 92% of manufacturing organizations have adopted digital marketing, and 98% of SaaS companies say that they are in the very mature phase of their digital marketing strategy. And then everybody I talk to says things like, how do we get started? Or this reactionary marketing, like, we have a tool, we're sending emails. We don't do it on a very regular basis. We sort of, sales comes to us and says, we're going to launch this product and you need to support us, and we'll send an email. Or service comes and says, we're going to be closed for this bank holiday next week, so can you send an email out to our customers letting them know? And it's sort of that reactionary type of thing. Somebody else is sort of driving the train for the marketing department and letting them know what they should be doing. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it provides great support. A lot of situations, it supplies great ROI, but it's not quite strategic. It's more of doing as things come up. And then probably the starting point, which is, I made a joke, but it's sort of what's a marketing plan? And there's a ton of organizations that are in a place where they have a full grasp on marketing, but there's not a plan in place. They don't have a content plan. They aren't looking at it from the perspective of, we're doing this today, we're doing that tomorrow, and so on and so forth. And then the final piece, which really gets back to the tweaking the machine, is they aren't looking at it saying, if I do this, what's going to happen? And when I do it and I see what happens and I review that data that comes back to me, was it good or was it bad? Or do I not know what good or bad looks like when I look at the data? And that's sort of that first phase. And we all go through this sort of crawl, walk, run approach from the right side of the screen to the left. And I just want to say that I think most of us are still somewhere between 1 and 2. And that's totally fine. But that's defining the where are we now and being honest about it really gets us to that next step of what are we going to do about it. So next, see if I can get this to work here. I'm going to pull up a PDF. Yeah. This is what I propose when you're starting off. So you're going into an implementation, whether as a consultant or you're the person on the client side that is managing the project, which, let's be honest with everybody, that's a consultant too. Your role is to consult the rest of your internal organization on how to implement this project, whether it's the Pardot project for marketing, whether it's a Salesforce core project, whether it's any other project. Your role is to come in here and define the steps to get to the best ROI, and also to make sure we actually get to the end of the project successfully too. So I've put this together, and what I ask clients to do, and I've used it before internally, is to come back and take this matrix, which I filled in already with some descriptions. But the idea is to look down the left side and see these sort of 5 pillars that go along with your strategic marketing. And that is the strategy, the measurement, the data, what are we looking at? The adoption is in the IT side of things, sometimes it's like we roll it out, you got to use it, things go. On the marketing side of things, a lot of times we roll things out, nobody listens to us, and they sit there, and 6 months later, somebody comes and says, we should really do this. And you say, we've been doing it for 6 months. So that's the adoption piece of it. The next piece is the buy-in, having the budget and the technology, that not just having it, but having it for the space you're in right now, the step you're in. And then lastly, and this comes down to the marketing side more so than other departments, which is that integration between sales and marketing. And where are we at today in that? And totally siloed is an answer that's perfectly fine. This is not about judgment. It's more about surfacing the reality. And then across the top is just 4 sort of phases. I've put these in. You can call them 1 through 4, and you can label it however you'd like. And then I also filled in, just for the sake of trying to get a feel for deciding which step you're at, just some comments in there for that too. And then what I usually do after that point in time is hand this out. And I tell folks, honesty is the best policy. Nobody's getting fired if everything is on that first row of we're not doing any of it yet. I think that's exciting as a consultant. I think it's exciting if I'm the project manager, because that means now I can start at the beginning and build something that people are going to be wowed by, because we got nothing right now. So there's that piece, but being honest, I think, is always the best policy. And then I recommend circulating this around, not just to the marketing team, because you're going to get the same answers probably that if you're in the marketing team, you get, but circulate it around to the sales team, to the executive leadership team, to IT, to product, to service, anybody that you think you respect their opinion, that they have a feel for things. I would take that around to them. It gives you that 360 view of what people think about marketing in your organization. As a consultant, it's a little easier because I can circulate this around, and whatever the results are, I'm looking at it purely from an objective perspective. Now, if you're in the organization and your job is the digital marketing manager or the VP of marketing, I know that if everybody ranks you low and you think you guys are much farther along, that can hurt some feelings, but take it as an opportunity, and take it, if you are much farther along, as an opportunity to educate people in the other departments to be able to move on from there. And then lastly, just tally up the results. How many people say that we're at the beginning phase of strategy? How many people say that we're in step 3 of sales and marketing integration, and so on and so forth, and get that information back. And then, of course, what's always the most important is, what do you do with it? And so my last step prior to starting the implementation process is being able to come back in here and do 3 things. One is identify the next step needed to go to the next level. So if measurement, reporting, data, that kind of stuff, we're in the dabbling stage, I'm not saying we need to get to strategic doing as a part of this project. I'm saying when we implement, we need to get to doing. If our strategy stage is we have no strategy yet, I want to get to dabbling as a part of this project. My job might not be right now strategy for the marketing department. My job might be to implement the product, but I want to, at least in this process, get them to the next phase. And just go through that for each of them. Then identify who is going to be responsible for that. In a small organization, there's a good chance that that'll be your role, and you get to be responsible for all of them. But it's easier to have meetings; they're much shorter, one person. But just identify who that person is or that team is who's going to be responsible to get everybody there. And then lastly, and I think this is the most important, beginning step of the next phase, which is, what are the measurable results? Just like I want to know, if I start doing social media ads, I want to know what the ROI is. I want to know what I'm measuring to know, is it working? Is it not working? Am I making money? Am I wasting money? Should my money be spent elsewhere? Even on these phases of the implementation, I want to be able to go in there and say to myself, you know what are the measurable results that I can show as a part of this process that's going to identify success? From there, I've got a couple things on here. Here's a matrix you can use to have other people fill out and some descriptions that go along with it. And then the last piece is just the same identification, which is where do you want to go? I'm going to throw this in here just because I thought it's important we say Pardot a couple more times. But what I'm trying to say is that strategically, we want to go from what we're talking about, where we are today, to where we want to go, and then layer that into each of the steps in the process. So it's not just about implement Pardot, it's about all the different phases and all the different things that Pardot touches along the way, allowing that to be an important piece in the process. I will say that there's hiccups and there's bumps that come along with this, but it is a nice way to get started, and it can be a hand holder. It can be a good way to involve everybody in the organization. So that's pretty much what I have there. You've got some notes here. Again, if you have any questions, you can contact me there, but also we have 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, if there are any questions today.
Judson, this was a fantastic presentation. I really appreciate. Let me see if we have any questions here on the chat. Okay, somebody's asking here, what's Jason, can you put that on the chat as well? Well, actually, let me do it.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. I did see the question from Andre about e-commerce. I think, Andre, I've worked with multiple tools, whether it's Pardot or other ones that from a B2B e-commerce perspective, they have all the I think it integrates, the purposed integration is similar to a lot of them, your abandoned carts or other things that go along with it. But I think because of the fact that these are B2B customers and often they're purchasing many times on your e-commerce, you just have so many opportunities to A, upsell them, B, cross-sell them, and C, educate them about the product they're using to increase adoption. And I think Pardot is a great tool because it's so smart and it integrates with Salesforce that not only do you do the things like Amazon does, where they say, go and buy more products because you bought this product or something like that, but they can really go deeper and help you use that product you bought and make sure you continue to work with it. Are we running out of time here?
Yes, I believe this is a queue here. I want to say once again, Judson, thank you so much for your time, and
Sure.
thank you everybody for joining us on this one.